For more on the economic influences at ASEAN, I spoke with David Dollar, Senior Fellow on Foreign Policy and Global Development and Economy at the Brookings Institution, and I asked him if Chinese President Xi's new initiatives will be the focus of this year's meetings.
Well, I think through the Asian Infrastructure Bank and through the Silk Road Initiative, China's offering a very significant amount of financing focused on infrastructure. And clearly the infrastructure needs in Asia are enormous. So I think this is quite positive. So naturally, when he goes to the ASEAN summit, that gives him what we call soft power. He's coming in with a strong hand. I'm sure he'll be talking publicly and in private about following up on these initiatives. So it's definitely an important initiative.
When you talk about soft power, I'm just curious from the perspective of the ASEAN countries. I'm sure they're well aware of that. What's going to be their reaction, or how will they handle that delicate issue of, one, probably wanting the money for infrastructure projects, but at the same time not wanting to give up too much control either?
Yeah, there's certainly a certain amount of wariness about China, and there's some issues, obviously maritime issues in the South China Sea. But I would say these countries welcome the infrastructure financing. If you look at the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, 21 countries showed up for the opening last month. 9 of the 10 ASEAN members joined the bank at the beginning. So even countries that have a little bit of tension in their relations with China, they're joining the bank and they're interested in getting the infrastructure financing. So I would say this initiative of China is very welcome from the countries in the region.
Enhanced economic engagement is a term used to describe what President Obama is going to attempt to do here, or part of his platform. Explain to our audience, number one, what that is and how that's going to impact the meetings.
I think it has 2 important components. One is trade facilitation. That sounds a little technical, but that's about really making it easier to trade by harmonization of customs procedures and other procedures. That's really all about access to the U.S. market. If you look at China and the U.S. together, China's offering a lot of finance to improve infrastructure, and the United States is offering to enhance access to the U.S. market, which is still the biggest market in the world. So for countries in Southeast Asia, it's great to have these 2 big countries offering good things. If there's a little bit of competition between China and the United States, that's quite positive for the countries in Southeast Asia. And so that U.S. initiative is about better access to the U.S. market. And then the second part of it is coming up with an agreed set of principles for investment, and it's trying to open up more investment from those countries into the U.S., but probably more importantly from the U.S. into those countries.
You think about Southeast Asia, a lot, of course, has been made about the growth that we've had in the past and the growth we're going to have potentially in the future. When you look at the region, people forget these countries are all individual countries and they all have different cultures, they all have different histories. What's going to be the biggest challenge in trying to integrate all of that so it's one cohesive, growing engine?
Well, I think one challenge is you've got such different levels of development. Brunei and Singapore are really quite wealthy countries, where Myanmar and Laos and even Vietnam to some extent are relatively poor countries. So it's interesting to have a regional group with such vast differences. Potentially there could be a lot of benefit from that, but they really need to open up to each other. So I think the biggest challenge is tearing down their own barriers that are barriers toward each other and to the rest of the world. And then I would have said infrastructure was an important deficit area. And that's we come back to where we started. It's great that China is offering up this infrastructure financing that can help connect countries. But then there's the software side of it. So hopefully this U.S. initiative will help these countries harmonize trade facilitation among themselves, not just between themselves and the rest of the world.